Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and thank you for stopping by once again. I have some information to share with you. I've got three topics I want to mention. COVID, not for very long. Real estate, a little bit more interesting stuff there. And Bitcoin, which is of interest to some folks. So let me just get through that. As far as COVID is concerned, we have had an increase in infections and positivity, that is the percentage positive. But we haven't had any, to my knowledge, certainly not in terms of deaths, but I don't even think in hospitalization much of it changed at all. So with good fortune, we're going to be okay and pass through this. It really depends on other nations, really, and what's sent to us. And that's our biggest concern, because we do know many nations have large numbers of people who are not vaccinated and so on and what have you. So even though we allow folks in with the vaccination, we just have to we do our best to weed out the ones who carry the false information, because it's important to us, that's all. So, anyhow, we continue on, therefore, as we have been. Nothing has changed in that regard. People want to go on about their business. We have people certainly coming in. The numbers of people arriving at the airport are increasing. The number of flights are increasing. Things are beginning. They're not back to normal as they were back in 2019, but we're well on our way there, and we've gotten a lot further than most people think. In fact, the country's economic growth continues, and that's going to be dealt with in a different manner. I'll mention that a little bit later. But we've had additional positive news in that regard. So that's one thing with COVID. That's enough, I think. In terms of real estate, I've had a number of people in, spent time talking to them, hearing about their experiences and so forth, and also with others by email, and others coming in and so forth. So I'm beginning to get more and more of a sense for what is actually happening out in the real world for people like yourselves who come down. And it's good news. I mean, it's what even I'd expect. We haven't had any huge increase in sales. We haven't had a huge number of people coming in yet. It's starting, but we have a big inventory. The bargains are unquestionably here. I'm actually pleased for once to see some of the conferences that are being held here, at least admitting to the fact that this is a great place to buy. This is a buyer's market. You can get bargains here. Right. They're absolutely correct. And in the past, there's been this tendency to always want to say, oh, well, things are popping, things are growing. And no, that's not the case yet. They will. The economic growth, which again is coming later, that is very indicative. I'm not concerned at all about that in the longer run. But for now, it is definitely a buyer's market in the city and in some portions up the coast. But that's a different picture, but it's on the coastline, and it's a buyer's market there too. The city's a different market because it's a business situation, so you have a very large business community, and the retiree community, things like that, are much smaller. They're here in large numbers, but they're just outnumbered by the very large business community, which is in the process of growing again. Now, but what does this mean? I was just talking with a couple here who had been out looking. It's interesting. I'm going to use theirs as an example because I think it makes the best example of what's going on. They had told me that they had found a place they wanted. It was furnished, I assume reasonably okay. It was on the 9th floor of a building overlooking the bay. It was 3 bedrooms and 3 baths, and so forth. And they were getting it for $1,400 a month, which is not a bad price for the location, for the view, and so on. Not bad at all, but they weren't entirely happy, as it turned out, with the landlord and the attitude that he was sort of taking. He's not from Panama, another Latin American nation. And that was difficult, and they just were not happy. He was getting pushy and demanding and this, that. So their agent took them off to another location, same general area. This is now on the 22nd floor. It has 3 bedrooms, 3 baths, a maid's room, and a maid's bath. Now, those are traditional. When in the past, very typical for Latin American families to have a maid come with them. They've been with the family. They're members of the family for practical purposes. and they would come with them when moving to Panama, for instance. They'd bring the maid along, or whatever. Or here, Panamanians themselves would have someone. That's less and less likely the case. The day of the live-in maid is fading, but the little rooms are still here. And in one case for me, I used it as a little office. That's what it boils down to. I don't need that here. I moved down. I reduced my footprint, so to speak. I don't have that here, but I still have room for storage here that I didn't have in the other place. So if you can have, they can have it either way. You can have, if you want to have a live-in maid, and it's possible if somebody gets sufficiently ill that you need a nurse in overnight or something of this sort, you at least that's conceivable. But these rooms tend to be very small and not terribly comfortable. Whatever, it's there. I see them as storage. I see them as potentially small offices. It depends how they're laid out. So they've got all this on the 22nd story floor with a much bigger balcony and another beautiful view of the bay. Now they're paying less money because it is not furnished, and they're getting it for $1,100 a month. That's a very good price for an unfurnished apartment, and that nature where they are and with the view, everything that goes with it, they would not have gotten it for $1,100 a month. Oh gosh, what, 3 years ago? No way. So they are going out. There are agents taking them out. I've seen this happen, and I work with agents who do the same thing. They'll take people out and show them where to go and buy furniture. And you can go into a store here, they're used to this, and get a package for a particular type of room and so forth, or whatever. And they figured that they're doing better, that it's going to pay for it by virtue of getting the lower rent, and also by virtue of the fact that they're getting better stuff than they were going to get in the first apartment. So, I mean, they're really happy. Things are working out for them. And this is a good sign, I think, for anybody coming down. This is in the rental area, but the same basic idea can be found in purchasing a home, too. You negotiate. One thing they're going for, and they actually want, and they have to convince the owner, but they think that is successful. Paperwork's been written up. It has not yet been signed, but nobody's expecting any problem. But they asked for it and have gotten a 2-year lease. It's a good price. Take it, If your plan is to rent for a while and not to buy, or to rent permanently for all you know, and so on. So given it's such a good deal, they went for that, and they're getting that too. So what can I say? It's a good time to be looking for a rental or a sale, definitely within the city. There are good deals along the coast too, but again, you have to keep in mind the coast is a special area, and it faces some challenges here because of rising seas and so forth, and concern about flooding and so on, which may or may not occur, but it has led to a different feel toward that market out there, and increasingly among people coming down interested in buying and looking for the mountains behind the beach, for example, where they can run down 20 minutes later, you're at the beach. But at the same time, others very much want to be there. So I think my encouragement there has always been to think in terms of renting until you get to really know your area and know where you're best likely to work out for you. That's the beach. But the city is just wide open here. And other parts of the country, not so much, because there haven't been new buildings, new developments out there for quite a while. In a lot of areas, in the Boquete area, for example, there hasn't been. And the result of this is the prices are high, not low. And that can be very frustrating to people. And you in some parts of the country, rural areas, I can't speak for Boquete, but I know for others, that rentals will be quite reasonable in comparison to sales. And part of the reason for that is that the owners own outright. When they bought the whole thing lock, stock, so there's no mortgage to be paid. There are no particular fees. There are taxes that have to be paid. And of course, they have to maintain the property. But otherwise, they can charge less and just have some positive cash flow from that. They don't need a lot necessarily. They'll do with less because they recognize the market is what it is. And that's okay with them. But if you want to buy the house and suddenly everything seems to get automatically far more expensive, there are reasons for that. Again, I'm just going back to one fundamental thing. I'll say it again and again and again. I've never done this before, but I'm telling you, now is a good time. And in the months to come, this isn't going to happen overnight, but it's well underway. We're going to have some good deals. We have some very good deals here going. And that's why when you do get this opportunity to come down here, if you're willing to take your time and look at the places and negotiate and do, I'll help you in any way you can, you can make something happen for you. That makes a lot of sense. And there was a day when nobody would have admitted you could get a decent place here for $1,100 a month, even unfurnished. Or a really nice place for $1,400. No. That is furnished. No. So that's it. That's the key. I'm happy to be able to report that. The other area, and this is sort of the end of my talk here, will be on Bitcoin. Bitcoin's fine with me. I don't care. As I'd said at one time, I don't remember if it was in writing or in one of these videos, we're not El Salvador, which jumped on Bitcoin and just suddenly, bam, they do Bitcoin. I don't think that was a very bright move to make, and that's personal opinion here. They a little over-enthusiastic and so on. Panama has now just passed That sounds like thunder. If you heard that in the background, yes, it is. It's going to rain this afternoon. I hope this doesn't scare any of you away. I love it, actually. You can go out on the balcony and see it come in off the ocean, but later, not right now. But Bitcoin has been approved by the legislature. It was a unanimous vote of the deputies that showed up. We only had, I think, 40 of the deputies showed up, which is a quorum. And they said 40-0, done. And it's off. It had been written by deputies here, legislators here, and people from the Bitcoin community here provided some technical assistance to them in writing it up. And understand that Panama is a business country, and again, we're not El Salvador, we're a business country, so they had to go through, what they want to do is do it right, the first time, cover the possible things that come up that are important to people in that business. They feel that they have done so, but a couple points. One is that the president has to sign it. He will. I have no doubt in my mind about that. Since it's unanimous support, the cabinet will approve it, blah, blah, blah. It will become a law. However, the details, all the regulations and everything else, although they may be described as to what is expected in the legislation, somebody actually has to sit down and write them all up, and they will do that. There will be a body here that's already in the legislation charged with that, so that this is what's done here, is that laws are passed where effectively the legislature and the president say to the administration, the people, the bureaucrats, this is what we want, bang, 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 bang. And then they come up with regulations that fit that, all right? And if the legislature, the president doesn't like it, they get right back, to them. But the point is that if we had to wait for the legislature to come up with all the detailed regulations, what a mess we would have on our hands. And everybody knows that here, including the legislators. So we want to see exactly every detail that comes out of it, of course. But don't worry about it. It's a very important thing from our viewpoint. It is, and every country is interested in being on top of this and benefiting from it without causing any sort of chaos or sort of problem for other people or for anybody in our society. It is not going to be legal tender in Panama. This is noted by people. The closest thing we have to legal tender is the U.S. dollar. It's going to remain that way. Trust me. They're not planning on replacing it with Bitcoin. In the future, someday, who knows? But not at this stage. They're simply making it possible for you to do business in Bitcoin. That's pretty good. Now, I will have 2 links to 2 articles from cryptocurrency sites, and they're quite respectable, and we'll go into more detail, explain what's going on. And for those of you who are really interested in it, when you get here, check in. You'll be able to find places, and not going to be that hard, and find out exactly where you stand. You need to follow the story, so to speak, and not just say, okay, we can do anything we want to. Well, now you got to get down here first and get settled in. But it's clearly been designed to make it useful to people and usable. That's very important indeed. So I'll put those in the description below. And you can go in and take a look. Those who are interested can go in and take a look at it. One of them has a video, which I think is pretty descriptive. And it also demonstrates the generation I enjoy working with the most of them all. And which is no insult meant to my generation, since I just now turned 77. Ta-da, I just had a birthday. And I'm still alive. And that always comes as a big surprise to me. So we'll see next year whether that's still the case. In any event, I will be putting together a letter to go out to Retirement Wave members. Now, for those of you who are, hold on one second here, I need to get a glass of water. Okay, the one time I don't have the glass of water sitting beside me is the time that I need it, naturally. Okay, I've got it, I'm fine. And the rain came, and it's gone already. I mean, it's one of these, they just flow through sometimes. This was one of them, heavy rain, and then it's gone. But in any event, I was just mentioning the fact that I have a letter coming out of Retirement Wave. Now, for people who are not familiar with this, retirementwave.com is the website that's associated with this YouTube channel. It has no advertising like this channel and so forth, well, except for what YouTube runs on it to their benefit. Anyhow, you can, I generated a newsletter there. There's about 6,000 members over there. And typically it's a PDF. When that's the case, then I can also put a link to it up here at the channel. But this one may not require that. I don't send out a PDF unless I have to. So yeah, it's just extra weight to an email if it's not necessary. I may just put it up as text and charts in a letter. I've done that too, which can't be downloaded, so to speak, here as a PDF or anything else. So if that's the case, I will be sharing the information from it in the videos to come. If it's basically I'm talking about the economy and where it stands. It's very positive news. The whole thing is upbeat, okay? And for good reason. I don't just do it for the sake of it. I don't do things like that. If it's important to you that you really want to get it and you're not a subscriber, then just go to retirementwave.com and subscribe on any page, and you can always unsubscribe when you want to, and you won't get any advertising with that, I can assure you. And so you will automatically know that you're going to get that letter. I don't send a lot out, sometimes 4 in the course of a year, so you can see you're not going to get overwhelmed with it. On the other hand, if that's not important to you, that's fine too. Well, you may catch it at some point in the future, depending on when you're next back in to check out a video, one thing or another. So do as you, if you haven't subscribed, feel free to subscribe and click the little or bang the bell or whatever you want to get it done, or to increase the probability that you'll actually be notified that a new video is out. That's it for this time. Thank you for stopping by. I look forward to the next time.